Hello, listening people. Before the episode starts, I just need to clarify something that happened. Unfortunately, during this episode, we had a bit of a technical issue on our recording program, and unfortunately, not all of the episode got captured this time round, but a good, significant portion of it did. So, again, I am so sorry about that inconvenience, but hopefully you still listen to the episode and enjoy what we managed to capture. It's quite a fun time as we break down yet another Kevin Smith movie. Well, until next time, people, and remember to enjoy the episode. Hello, listening people.
Hello.
You're listening to Spit and Polish Presents Unappreciated Masterpieces. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Sliwinski.
And I'm the one that makes two, Bartek.
Hello, Bartek. How are you?
Good, Ryan. How are you?
I'm great because we're doing our month where we cover Kevin Smith movies on the show.
Wow.
Yeah, we're up to the third one, where we cover the third installment of Kevin Smith's feature-length movies.
Third one?
Yeah, on our show Unappreciated Masterpieces, in which we provide audio commentary tracks for movies that seemingly don't deserve an audio commentary track, but that's where we say, hey, you're wrong on that.
Hey, you're wrong on that.
Yeah, especially those Kevin Smith haters. It's like a double dose of unappreciated masterpieces. It's an unappreciated auteur filmmaker and his unappreciated works that happen to be masterpieces. It is a whole slather of unappreciatedness. And we are here to provide the commentary that says different to what the general masses say. We are here to give a thumbs up about whatever movies we are covering. But Bartek, why are we called Spit and Polish? What's that all about?
We are called Spit and Polish, hold on a second. Likingly because we are always spitting, and we both happen to be Polish.
Is that correct? We are both Polish? Me, Ryan, and you, Bartek? Could that be the genuine facts?
Genuine indeed.
Are you sure we're not Jewish? Because I get a lot of that in my life. Everyday life, I get people go, Sliwinski, what, is that Jewish? And I'm like, no. Close, though.
And you tell them Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov! So, Bartek, what is the movie we're covering of Kevin Smith's filmography? So, just to recap, we've already done Jersey Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And we already did Zack and Miri Make a Porno, so, like, what are we doing next? I mean, what are we doing now? What's this episode? What are we covering?
Well, obviously, this episode we are covering the classic film Fujare na Tropie.
Okay. You got me there, Bartek. I thought it was going to be Jeff China goes to police academy, but do tell me, what does that translate into? Because I imagine that's Polish you're speaking, and I don't speak Polish, although I am Polish. Don't speak the language.
I'm still working out why that is.
It's just because I'm lazy.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
That's the real Australian part of my Polish heritage kicking in there. So what is that translate?
The bludger half.
What's that translate into?
Fujare na Tropie translates to, I believe it's cops on the trail?
Oh, a direct translation, huh? Nice. So we're watching Cops on the Trail, huh?
I don't
Excellent.
think we are, Ryan.
Are you sure?
No, I don't
Then
think.
what are we watching?
I mean, I could just say yes, but that'd be a bit of a cop-out from 2010.
Cop Out from 2010?
Yeah!
With everybody's favourite actor, Adam Brody, who was in Jennifer's Body.
Who did he play?
He played, like, the cop that was like, I want to wear those boots. And the other ones, like, Kevin Pollak is like, you don't get to wear those boots. And then he does get to wear some boots. And then he's like, you wear those boots good. Yeah, we're covering Cop Out, people. So
He's the only actor I recognized.
really? Because,
No.
dude,
I just was confused by him, of course.
dude, there's many other actors that you may recognize in
I
this.
know.
I mean, you're going to be shocked when I give you some hard facts. Because, guys at home, you have to have a copy of the movie ready. Because I'm going to do a countdown from 3. I'm going to press play. Because I'm going to go from 3. And then I'm going to say play. And I'm going to press that play. You're going to press it. We're going to be lined up as we speak about the movie. Isn't that right, Bartek?
Yes, but I'm not going to press play. Ryan is.
That is correct. I am the one with the massive responsibility. So get ready, because I'm going to start this in 3, 2, 1, play. So, Bartek, do you have a history with this movie? Because you've had a history with one Kevin Smith movie thus far. Is it a 2 for 2? I mean,
it'd be a 2 for 3 at this point.
let's ignore Jersey Girl.
Well, even if I did, it would be a no, Ryan. It is still 1 for 3.
What's your fucking excuse?
I think maybe
This came out when we were in high school. You had no excuse not to see this.
Year 11, Ryan. I was at a new school.
So,
It was by the beach.
did you move house?
I was afraid of no.
Then no excuse. It's not like you moved into a rough part of town and the local bullies are like, no movies for you here.
It was a rough part of town. It was a high school by the beach. A lot of rich kids there.
Yeah, you included. So, Bartek, I have a history of this movie for once.
For one, did you not have one for Jersey Girl? Oh, no, that was Rachel, yes.
Don't forget, my fiance had a history with Jersey Girl. I did not. This is the first out of these Kevin Smith movies we're covering that I have seen before. But I will give you a double reveal. I have seen it before. And then I watched it last night to get ready. And I realized I have never seen this movie before.
Really?
I don't know what movie I thought I saw. This has no recollections to me. Nothing came back.
This is like me with my super ex-girlfriend.
This is like, hey, you saw this movie, remember? I don't know what buddy cop movie I saw, but I saw one once. And this wasn't
Well, how many
it.
buddy cop films have there been?
I don't know. I think this started the genre. So,
It wasn't a homage?
it wasn't a homage, it was a homage. No. This movie is one of those legendary movies. Now, Bartek, you not being as familiar with Kevin Smith, I imagine you weren't as familiar with the legendary status of hatred this movie had and continues to have.
Well, I mentioned in our previous episodes that I have listened to, or at least watched videos on YouTube of Kevin Smith talking about his experiences with Bruce Willis.
Very weird experiences with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I wouldn't have immediately said, like, oh, yes, the film he did with him was Cop Out. But as soon as I saw that this is the film that he did that Bruce Willis starred in, I was like, oh, this is the one where there was some kerfuffles, as it were.
Yes, and we'll get into all of that. But yes, this movie, other than that behind the scenes, this movie itself garnered a lot of critical hatred and audience hatred as well. A lot of people considered this to be his worst movie. Before that, it was Jersey Girl was considered to be his worst movie. Yeah, Kevin Smith has gone on the record as being like, yeah, this movie didn't really do well. Now, I will note that this is not written by Kevin Smith. This is not his script. He may have punched some stuff up, but the other movies have been his scripts. So maybe that adds to something.
I didn't realize that until I was done with the film.
Yeah, nor did I really. I looked it up again just to make sure. But like, I personally don't hold that against the right. I'm not saying that it's all writer's fault. For me personally, I think there's a lot to enjoy in this movie. I'll be straight up honest. Out of the ones we've covered thus far, this is not my absolute favorite. I think Zack and Miri Make a Porno is probably my favorite out of the three we've covered thus far. Because, although they're all unappreciated masterpieces, you still always have your personal favorites. But I gotta be honest, Tracy Morgan rocks this scene. He's so good. My favorite joke he had in this scene of line quotes, and I might have to explain it to you about it because I imagine you haven't seen it, but he makes a quote reference to In the Heat of the Night, which is when the guy's like, who are you? And he goes, they call me Mr. Tibbs, which is such a great line to use because In the Heat of the Night is a great movie. You should really watch it. It's a movie, about Sidney Poitier is, a black cop and he has to investigate something, so he has to go to the South, or he happens to be in the South, and Rod Steiger is like the chief of police there, and they have to kind of team up together and work stuff out, and Sidney Poitier is like a city guy, and he's all eloquent and whatever, and there's a bit where, it's all about racism and stuff. There's a bit where Rod Steiger, or someone, it's not even Rod Steiger, I think it's the villain, says to you, like, oh, you're one of those fancy city niggas, what do they call you in the city? And he goes, they call me Mr. Tibbs! And he says it in this very Shakespearean, very pronounced way, to the point in which when they made a sequel 10 years later, that was all about him. It was called They Call Me Mr. Tibbs. And it was just great to hear Tracy Morgan go, they call me Mr. Tibbs! in his way, because Sidney Poitier is known for that very eloquent, very, mannered speaking, that very posh manner of speaking. So he and Tracy Morgan do it perfect. It's like the exact reversal of how that scene was supposed to play out originally. And that's what adds to the joke here, because Tracy Morgan makes these pathetic, like, pop culture references, and he doesn't even understand them. Like, he doesn't use them in the right way or context. And that's the joke. And I'm happy in the movie, I don't know if you are, but I'm happy that they didn't play that up as just his sole thing as a character. Like, his character isn't just constantly
he wasn't
making...
just references or quotes.
He was also an encyclopedia about facts. He just randomly pops out facts. And he just goes monotone. It's like monkeys give each other head. It's like, what's going on with Tracy Morgan?
But he's also a character.
He's also a character. He's got a wife. He's got a neighbor he doesn't like. She's got a gay cousin that plays into the mix. He's got a teddy bear with a camera. And Bruce Willis is in his life. He's a character.
This is their anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's their 9-year anniversary. Did you notice that?
I heard it.
Oh, name drop of the original name of the movie. So the original name was A Couple of Dicks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They just name dropped it in the movie, even though that's not the title anymore, because the studio after the fact said, no, we're not going to call it that. Call it something like Cop Out or something.
I think, yeah, they came up with a title, and I think Kevin Smith said, like, nah, that just sounds like a cop-out, and they're like, use that. I think that was the trigger point, yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay.
I can't remember what the title the studio wanted was.
Bruce Willis.
Or maybe it was just a couple of cops or something.
Yeah, Bruce Willis, be crazy. So, I imagine this is one of Bartek's favorite scenes, Tracy Morgan dressed up as a phone.
I mean, it was very silly. I like him flipping the sign.
And his dumb face.
He was born with that face, Ryan. Don't be mean.
He was born with it. Yeah.
He was born with it.
So, Bartek, having not been familiar with this movie yourself, what did you
Unlike
think...
you.
No, yourself. Like, I have already said that I'm unfamiliar. But you, also being unfamiliar... What did you think you were getting into before actually having watched it and seen what it is? Like, all your expectations and thoughts.
Well, based on the poster and based on the title, buddy cop immediately sprung to mind. So, that was it. But also I had to think about, what does Kevin Smith bring to it? Again, I didn't know that he didn't write, that he just directed it.
But he still brought flavour.
He still brought flavour to it. And also I had heard, some of the Bruce Willis stories. So... it was just a thing that I just had to see it to really understand all those stories that I'd heard.
Yeah, man. And, I gotta be honest, I had a lot of expectations about the buddy cop thing. Because the buddy cop thing plays out in a lot of ways, Like, I thought this, and the movie straight out the gate denied me this. I thought, it's going to be a movie where Bruce Willis is like this hard-boiled cop who's been on the beat for years and years and years, and he's just been given a new partner, which is Tracy Morgan, and Tracy Morgan's like, I'm new on the scene! And Bruce is like, ugh, God, I have to teach him my rough and tumble ways.
So sort of like the second Johnny English film.
Yes, yeah. or the, the Lethal Weapon movies or something, where they have to team up together, but like, they straight out of the gate have been working together for 9 years. They understand how each other work, and you feel that they...
It's a cliche they avoided?
Yeah, like, they obviously butt heads about things, but it's in that way where people who have been friends for years and years and years butt heads about things. It's very like, oh God, he's at it again with thinking his wife's cheating on him.
And
like,
they didn't...
the pop culture references again.
And they didn't do the other buddy film cliche of like, there's the part where they split apart.
Oh, thank Christ.
And then later on, like, they have to get back together again.
I mean, they technically do.
I mean, yeah, but...
Bruce Willis leaves, and Tracy Morgan's like, don't leave! And then he does, and then he comes back, and everything's okay. Kinda.
Well, that was just a stepping out kind of leave.
Yeah, but that's the closest they get.
Yeah.
Can I comment that this is one of the funniest scenes to me, in the fact that it's not comedic, but I found it hilarious that Bruce Willis witnessed this guy mow down another guy with like an Uzi or whatever, but he's absolutely shocked to his core in this scene that he's shooting on a train platform. Like, he's absolutely shocked. Like, he's even less shocked about him jumping the platform than he is about him having shot a gun on a platform. Like, he's just like, whoa, what?
Well, I mean, Ryan, I think if we were to ask Kevin Smith what the deal with that was, he'd tell you that, Bruce Willis knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Oh, God. I did like, when it comes to the behind the scenes, there was this one line that Kevin Smith said, I didn't write it down, so I don't have the direct thing, but he was basically like, I would lay down in traffic and get run over it just to thank Tracy Morgan for keeping me sane on making this movie.
Yeah, I heard that quote.
Which is something you wouldn't expect anyone to say about Tracy Morgan. Now let's talk about Tracy Morgan. Do you know Tracy Morgan from anything?
I've heard the name a lot, and I recognize him, but I when I looked up his filmography, I'm not sure that I'd seen anything. I know that he's famous for 30 Rock, right?
Yes, that's what I know him from, and he basically plays himself. He's Tracy Jordan in that, and forgive me if at any point in this episode I call him Tracy Jordan, because Tracy Jordan's great. Tracy Jordan is just so absurd as a character. Like, there's an episode, I just love it, simple gags, like he's just like, the main character, Liz, is disrespecting him in front of his crew, and he's like, Liz, don't make me show you the back of my hand. And he gives her the back of the hand, and it's got a post-it note that says, I'm so sorry. It's just like, oh, okay. Or one of my favorites, which is he has a song. He gets to sing, and it's a comedy song called Werewolf Bar Mitzvah. And it's him singing about attending a werewolf bar mitzvah. And it's just the idea of a werewolf having to do the whole bar mitzvah ceremony. And it's just one of the most absurd things, but it's actually played very straight for a comedic piece. And he's dressed up like Thriller, but a werewolf instead of a zombie creature. So he's doing the Michael Jackson the Thriller stuff with the red coat, but he's dressed up as a werewolf. And he's like, werewolf bar mitzvah, spooky, scary. And it's like, oh, Tracy.
Wasn't Michael Jackson being a werewolf in the music video?
Was he a werewolf? I thought he was like a zombie creature.
I thought the backup dancers were zombies.
Oh, were they?
I think he was a werewolf.
He was a werewolf. I know his eyes turned into cat eyes. So I thought he was a cat creature. I don't know what Michael Jackson was.
I know that on the South Park when Chef did Thriller, he was a zombie, but I don't know.
Michael Jackson fans out there, tell us what Michael Jackson was. Was he human? Was he a zombie? A werewolf?
Well, he sung a song called Human.
Was he a cat? Who knows? The pointless breaking of the Chiefs.
That was a nice little bit of immaturity.
Now, can we talk about... with Tracy Morgan, he's really good in this movie. I'm familiar with him playing himself, or a version of himself, and you're not familiar with him pretty much at all. But, like, in this, he kind of just plays Tracy Jordan, but as a cop, and I'm fine with that. This was one of my favorite scenes, by the way. I loved this scene. I thought it was really great. The whole him phoning him and then belittling like that. But I did love how these two played along with it like champs. Because they avoided another trope here. Like, here's a movie I'm going to compare this to a lot. The Other Guys.
I've read people comparing it.
You haven't seen The Other Guys, have you?
I saw it in cinemas.
Right. In The Other Guys, they have the other policemen, but they're dicks. Like, they're assholes, basically, and you don't understand how they could ever be cops on a level. In this movie, I could understand how these two are actually policemen. But they're the right level of dickishness, but also they're dicks because these people are terrible. Terrible people. So, yeah, but I loved this little back and forth with Bruce Willis and Tracy. I
like that they're like the side buddy cops, and they still have their own like rapport, their own chemistry.
Yeah, they're and you could watch a movie of them.
It's like, this started off as a scene where, Tracy Morgan and Bruce Willis were arguing and they were angry, but then they were brought together by these two coming in acting like douches, but then when they were listening to what they were saying in response, they were actually somewhat impressed by it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? These guys kind of get along. It's cool.
Like I said, the younger guy in that duo is Adam Brody, who was in Jennifer's Body as the lead singer of the Satanist band. He was one of our favorites in Jennifer's Body.
Yes,
so it was really nice to see him pop up in this. So I was like, hey, I know him. we had him on recently for something, and I looked up like Jennifer's Body, I'm like, yeah, like I always like it when we get those little guests, like, you know, previous
Recurring
stars.
characters, yeah.
Like, it's obviously with this movie we don't have too many.
No, I don't think so.
Like, I can't think of many, if there are many others in this one.
Well,
I can't remember. Have we had Fred Armisen on the show before?
Yeah, we've had him a few times. Is he in this?
Yeah, he's the Russian lawyer.
Oh, that was Fred
You know
Armisen.
Fred Armisen, that real Russian-looking fucker? The guy who I would cast as the Russian. Also, I wanted to ask you to keep an eye out when we read this, if his last name is Russian or Polish, because it has
we have
ski,
subtitles.
It has a
so we'll
ski
see.
on the end.
Okay.
So I was like, could it be Polish? Or or is it actually a Russian name? Because, you know, they there's some crossover there with some similar
They're both Eastern European, and
Eastern
they're right next to each other, yeah.
European stuff, and, well, one took over one of the others, so, yeah.
They traded some land.
They occupied one, yeah. I did like that in this particular cop movie, they did manage to avoid a lot of the tropes while still doing homage to the cop buddy genre, but without it being so wink in your face. We're doing even though at the beginning he says homage and all of that, or homage,
yeah.
but it's not like the movie is constantly winking at you. Like at the beginning they're a bit hard on it with Bruce Willis not getting the reference to Die Hard. Ha ha ha, we get it. He's Bruce Willis. He was in Die Hard.
It would be kind of a paradox if he did get it.
But there's no bit in the movie where he straps the gun to his shoulder with duct tape, or like, you know what I mean? There's no direct references anymore to other Bruce Willis type things, or those direct buddy cop things. They don't do like Hot Fuzz, where Hot Fuzz is overtly telling you these buddy cop tropes and then doing them at the end, and it's awesome. Like, have you ever shot a gun out of a car while going, no, I haven't done that? Have you ever shot 2 guns? And then at the end they do all those things that he asked. This movie doesn't have that. Like, they just kind of do it without kind of being obvious. Like, I'm not saying Hot Fuzz isn't great. That's one of my favorite movies, but like, that's the point of that movie directly, to be like, we are doing this. We are deconstructing this genre and doing it ourselves. Well, this movie is just kind of like, yeah, we're doing it.
Both these films, they know what their mission statement is. We can put it that way.
I agree. Do you have a favorite buddy cop genre, like movie or cop movie? I guess.
What cop movies have I seen?
No, it's a hard one.
I've obviously seen. I obviously know all the tropes, so I must have seen a few of them.
We've seen.
I guess
seen the other guys.
I've seen the other guys. Yeah. You know what? I always talk up 22 Jump Street. Possibly that one.
Yeah, the Jump Street movies. Have you seen any of the Lethal Weapons?
Maybe the first one a very long time ago, but not to the extent that I can say definitely.
And you haven't seen Beverly Hills Cop?
Have I seen Beverly Hills Cop?
Yeah, man, it's a hard one.
I'm thinking of other Eddie Murphy films.
What, like 48 Hours?
I've seen that one, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that one's like cop and
criminal.
Criminal, yeah.
But you know, I mean, it's a buddy.
It's a buddy
police thing,
and it's a crime, yeah.
Or yeah, there's a bunch of them. Obviously Lethal Weapon is a jump out one to me, and this movie has a lot of Lethal Weapon-ism stuff in there, of course, like a white guy and a black guy, obvious, but like or the annoying criminal buddy that they have, which is in this movie Seann William Scott, and in the Lethal Weapon movies it was Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci became the mascot of those movies, basically. Like, he appeared in one movie, I think Lethal Weapon, I want to say Lethal Weapon 2, as like, I want to say, it's been a while since I've watched it, but I want to say he was like a very minor threat in the movie, and then he appeared in the others as like more and more of this overwhelming presence, as just like this big player of the Lethal Weapon movies, in which he saves the day at some point in one of them as well. Joe Pesci's the best part of the Lethal Weapon movies, I gotta say, and a lot of Lethal Weapon fans, Die Hard ones, are like, no, he ruins it. And I'm like, fuck you, Joe
He's one
Pesci.
of those kind of roles.
Yeah, like layman's like him, but Die Hard fans, not fans of Die Hard, but Die Hard fans of Lethal Weapon.
Die Hard Lethal Weapon fans, yeah.
Are like, no, he's like the Jar Jar Binks. You know, like, screw you, Joe Pesci's great. I love Joe Pesci. So we got Jason Lee here.
Mm-hmm.
And second time in the Kevin Smith universe we've seen him, he was in Jersey Girl.
Yes.
As a smug asshole. And in this movie, he plays a smug, weak asshole, though. He doesn't have the power. here.
Who's got the money?
He does have money. Did you appreciate that you've been able to see more Jason Lee in your life because of Kevin Smith?
I suppose so. Like, every actor in this film, I think, did a great job.
Are you familiar with many Jason Lee performances or roles? Because obviously you know the Alvin Chipmunks very well. You're a big fan.
I've seen a scene from it that you linked to me last week.
Which I don't think he was even in. So, have you seen anything of him? Like, My Name is Earl, obviously.
Oh, I've seen episodes of My Name is Earl.
He is Earl.
Oh, he's Earl.
Yeah, imagine him with a mustache and some longer hair, and that's him.
I always imagined Earl was a bit shorter, wasn't he?
No, he's just standing next to Randy, who is also incredibly big, so
Okay.
kind of plays perceptions. But no, that's him. That's Earl Hickey. It always amuses me that you know, with My Name is Earl, like how Earl in that show, it just amuses me that he played that character, but then he's also in Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like, Jason Lee will do anything for money. Like, he'll play.
Does he like play live action in Alvin Chipmunks?
Yeah, he's the guy. He's the human who owns them.
Wasn't that David Cross?
No, David Cross is their manager.
Oh, okay.
David Cross is their greedy manager who literally is... The best thing about the Alvin Chipmunks movie, having seen one of them in my life for reasons that I don't want to get into because they're embarrassing. The reason being it was on and I just sat there and I didn't find the remote.
And you were very pumped.
No, David Cross is great in them. I would recommend watching it for David Cross because he literally does not give a single fuck in any of these movies. Like, when he leaves them, I hear it's like tragic. It's like, oh, I wish David Cross was in here again for the adults. But Bartek, let's talk about the emotional core of the movie. Bruce Willis
and his daughter.
She doesn't play into it that much. Like, she's the motivating factor, but he's the emotional core of the movie because he has to learn to deal with his own pride at the end of the day, you know? Because his baseball card gets shot by Tracy Morgan.
To be fair, as soon as he discovers that, he lets out a laugh.
And he also says, fuck. So...
He's trying to be edgy. We'll give him to him.
He's Bruce Willis. Are you a big fan of the Bruce?
I mean, I've been aware of him. I've never been like a super fan of him or anything like that.
No.
I've
many of his films?
In fact, I think when I watched Pulp Fiction,
yeah.
I think perhaps he might have been like my least favorite part of it.
Well, yeah, because his character doesn't really do... I mean, he does kill a guy with a samurai sword. It's pretty great. He does have one of my favorite bits in Pulp Fiction, which is when he gets his watch back and he's driving in the car and he's singing along and he stops at the crossing and Marcellus is like holding like a box of donuts and a coffee. He's like, motherfucker! And just gets run over. It's so good. But I agree, Bruce. Like, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I am a fan of Bruce Willis. Like, I like a lot of his movies, like Die Hard, obviously, a lot of those. What holds Die Hard up is his performance and his charisma. I've watched Moonlighting, the TV show that kind of spawned his career, and I enjoy him in that as well. I enjoy The Fifth Element. I enjoy him in The Fifth Element. And Chris Tucker, who I honestly wonder what this movie would have been like if it was Chris Tucker instead of Tracy Morgan. Because him and Bruce Willis have an amazing chemistry in that movie, and Chris Tucker's annoying as shit in that movie, but... I don't know I think this was in the time where Chris Tucker has retired from acting, and he may have done or doing a Rush Hour movie, so he was like, I can't do another cop body movie.
I've seen Rush Hour 3, that's another cop film I've seen.
Did you like it?
I remember being alright.
Who did you like? Jackie Chan or Chris Tucker? You gotta choose
You're giving
one.
me Jackie Chan, Ryan, so we gotta take...
But what about Chris Tucker?
I mean, what about Jackie Chan?
Well, Chris Tucker speaks with that funny voice.
I mean, you know me in funny accents, Ryan, so...
Poor Jackie Chan. The English is like his fifth language. Leave him alone.
And he does really well with it, alright?
He's a sweetie. So, yeah, this movie has a lot of individuals. Like, here's Rashida Jones, who is the daughter of Quincy Jones, who...
Oh, the Music Man.
The Music Man. And she's also the daughter of, I can't remember her mother's name, but she plays the owner of the R&R diner in Twin Peaks, and that's kind of cool. I remember there's an interview with Rashida Jones where this this dumbass journalist press woman on the red carpet is like, wow, you have such an amazing tan. Like, do you go out in the sun a lot? And she's like, no, I'm ethnic. Like, my dad is black. And she's like, oh. She's like, my dad is Quincy Jones. Like, it's just so awesome and how dodgy she is. But you know what? She's a very minor part in this movie, but I did enjoy seeing her. I kind of wish she was in it more. You know, I like Rashida Jones. Like, I'm actually a big fan of that movie. Forgetting the name of it, Cuban Fury, the one where Nick Frost tries to win over her love by learning to dance, like doing like tango dancing and like salsa dancing and stuff. I saw that in the cinema, and it's actually a really sweet movie.
Okay.
I recommend it. It has the best cameo by Simon Pegg. It's just like Nick Frost is like having this big emotional moment in a car park, and you see a car beep at him, and it's just Simon Pegg in the car driving past his window down and just giving this absolutely disdained face as he drives past, like, this fucking guy. I'm like, nah, that's Simon Pegg. But yeah, Bruce Willis, you know, big guy to have in your movie, and Kevin Smith obviously talks about it a lot, that he was a big fan of Bruce. Like, he even worked with Bruce on Die Hard 4. I mean,
yeah, if you simply, you know, look up on YouTube, you know, Kevin Smith, Bruce Willis, you'll either come across the
positive story or the negative story.
You'll either come across the Die Hard 4, was it?
Yeah. Die Hard 4. Live Free or Die.
Yeah, either Die Hard 4 positive stories or Cop Out stories.
Which are negative, yeah. You know, and obviously he was a big, huge fan of Bruce, as a lot of people...
Heroic worship.
Yeah, as a lot of people are. You know, one of my favorite movies is a Bruce Willis movie, which is Unbreakable. Like, I love Unbreakable, and if you haven't checked out Unbreakable, obviously check it out. I mean... The you know, Glass came out this year, which isn't supposed to be good, and that's a follow-up to Unbreakable, but Unbreakable is good, so just watch Unbreakable. And Bruce Willis gives a great performance in that movie. He has to be very withdrawn emotionally. He's not playing up his whole charismatic, hey, it's me, Bruce Willis persona. He's very withdrawn and very quiet in that movie. I love Bruce Willis a lot, and I could understand how someone like Kevin Smith in his career, he had a very insular kind of film work where a lot of the people he worked with in terms of actors were people he helped bring up, or people that were coming up at the same time as his career was going up, or people who were at the end of their careers, like George Carlin, say. And George Carlin isn't a huge big actor like Bruce Willis, so you know, it's also like getting to work with that kind of thing. But like, he hadn't really worked with big, huge stars at this point. Like, Seth Rogen was still coming up when he did Zack and Miri. So, in retrospect, we can be like, oh, Seth Rogen's a big star, but not at that point. Not as huge as he is now. But Bruce Willis, huge star. And this is the first time Kevin Smith really got to work with like a major, big Hollywood legend, like to the point where everyone knows who Bruce Willis is.
Yeah, so
everyone knows Die Hard.
Again, that he worshipped, yeah.
So I can see, like, you know, how the pressure of that would be very hard on a director like Kevin Smith, who kind of has that attitude like he makes movies for himself, basically, and his community of people. Like the Kevin Smith universe fans and stuff. And this is probably his most commercial movie. It's a script that's not his, for a studio that he doesn't really work for a lot, because his previous films that we've covered have been Weinstein movies. This is a Warner Brothers movie. He went to the Polish boys for this one.
The Polish Jews.
Yep. And, you know, this is a far more commercial Hollywood-type movie, which I imagine a lot of Kevin Smith fans hate.
Well, this is also the last one that he did like this, right?
Oh, yeah. He's gone fully weird after this. After this, he does horror movies and weird shit.
Indie stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. He does weird shit after this, which I love so much. We'll be covering Red State next episode, but like, yeah, this pushed him creatively in a different direction, you know, into different direction. Because if this did do well, Kevin Smith might have gotten stuck down the rabbit hole of doing those commercial Hollywood movies, like a lot of independent filmmakers do.
Possibly, but based on the stories he told...
Oh, obviously.
It sounds like this really turned him off a lot of things.
Yeah, if this movie in the behind the scenes and financially did a lot better, and critically did a lot better than it actually did...
He might be pushed to do more, but...
He might have gotten stuck down the rabbit hole of stuff, of just generic Hollywood material, and... I think that would have been a very disappointing universe to live in, because Kevin Smith's got a unique voice and unique presence in his filmmaking and his writing. And, you know, even though it's not his writing here, I can feel like he's punched up the script a bit, let the actors kind of flow, let them do their own thing, and all of that. And, you know, this movie has a very generic story at the heart of it. It is actually a little bit complicated, like, with what the Mexican gang wants. Like, we don't get to find out what it is that they properly want until later on in the movie. It's one of those crime caper movies where the actual crime and caper don't really matter. It's more the interactions between the two leads. Like this scene here where Tracy Morgan was allowed to improvise about poop for 12 minutes.
This scene here, aka half of Roger Ebert's review, was about this scene.
Do tell me about it. I didn't read his review.
Like, literally, it's like 8 paragraphs long. The first 4 are about this scene.
Was he like, I love this scene. I have also taken a shit, and I can completely understand where he is coming from when he is observing the fact that if you hold one in, it is big.
Look, unlike the other 2 films we've done, he actually didn't like this one. He gave it like 1 out of 4, maybe 1.5.
What?
It was low.
Was he not like, I met Tracy Morgan one time. He was a pleasant gentleman. He gave me some baked goods, and I gave this movie a higher review because of that.
I know that with this scene, he didn't like that Tracy Morgan kept talking about shit too much. He even wrote at one point, like, we get it. And also, this was a really bizarre point.
Yeah?
Do you know what parkour is?
Yes.
Do you feel like people know what parkour is? Like, even a little bit? Or do you reckon...
Here's the thing I gotta say. Yes and no. I'm gonna say yes because, those James Bond movies, the Daniel Craig ones, brought it into the public mainstream view of things, like Casino Royale and a bunch of those other ones. Like, really brought it to the forefront. Like, hey, parkour, because that's his fighting style a little bit more and all that kind of jumping and stuff, and maybe even Tom Cruise movies. But I could also say no in terms of I could also imagine, like, your general film viewer who isn't, like, really up-to-date with everything wouldn't know. So, yeah, it's a bit of both. But... did he say that this movie was pandering to the fact that they didn't think people knew what parkour is?
No, he released a review on the exact same day as his... well, according to the website that his reviews are on. Apparently, he saw a film... he released the review of that film the exact same day. I think it was called District 13 Ultimatum?
Okay. Sounds fun.
Yeah, apparently it was... I think he liked that one a bit more. In that film... apparently, the concept of parkour was also explained, and he was complaining about the fact that he saw another film that explained what parkour was, and he also accused Kevin Smith, saying something like, oh, I bet Kevin Smith just learnt what parkour is, and then he wanted to fit a little bit of it into this film. It was like, Roger...
I love the idea that it's like, hello, I am esteemed film critic, Roger Ebert. My job is to see at least 4 movies every day. I blame movies for assuming that the general filmgoers are people like me who see a million movies as well, and they notice that these movies repeat certain lines of information. It is not at all common. It is not at all common that people may not have seen District 13 Ultimatum and Cop Out in the same day or the same week, but they should cater to that knowledge because I've seen those movies in the same day or week. So movies should be catered to me, esteemed film critic Roger Ebert, who sees a million movies a week. Like, the idea of that, like, you know, I mean, like, I get it. You have just seen a movie that has explained the similar idea already. But you shouldn't take that out against the movie itself, because movies are tailored towards lots of demographics and lots of people. It's not like every single individual on Earth is seeing every movie every day and being like, hey, this movie just explained what hacking is to me. I saw that in that other movie about hacking. How dare they? I bet Roger Ebert would have got annoyed if they didn't explain what parkour was.
Well, you know, Roger Ebert, he also notoriously hates video games, I believe. And we just had a quote from a video game told just now. He probably went right over his head.
Which quote was it again?
All of your base are belong to us.
Of course.
From the Sega game Zero Wing.
Of course, everyone's a classic. So, Bartek, was this your favorite side character?
I think it might have been, actually, yes.
Really? Not Fred Armisen as Russian lawyer wanted to give his wife away?
Look, I have to also give this film this bit of credit. I make it sound like this film's not worthy of a lot of credit, but it's a point that I want to bring across. This isn't one of those films that I've found myself quite enjoying throughout this show, like Thunderpants or
Oscar
or Bubble Boy, where there's like, you know, the main character's just coming across like one scene wonder characters.
Oh right, yeah. This isn't a cavalcade of side characters. This has probably like 3 to 4 really good side characters.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. There are a couple that just appear like once. Like there's this mum here. There's the little kid carjacker.
Forgot about little kid carjacker.
And there's the lawyer. Yeah,
Seann William Scott.
Seann William Scott. Yeah, he's got like 2-3 scenes, but he's sparingly used. I really enjoyed the sparingly used characters in this film.
Yes. But like I just said, Seann William Scott is in the movie.
Yes, he is.
It was pleasant to see him.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he appeared the first time when he tasered Bruce Willis, I saw those eyes. I'm like, hey, it's Seann William Scott. I love Seann William Scott. You know, he's one of my favorite. He's one of those actors that I root for a lot. Like, I'm like, I love him.
Yeah, when I saw him, like, I know this guy, and the name was just not coming to me. Then eventually I was like, oh, it's Seann William Scott.
You weren't like, dude, where's my car guy?
Yeah, well, the thing is, in Dude, Where's My Car, he didn't really have any facial hair, and that's like the image that sticks in my head. And also, he was next to Ashton Kutcher, who's really tall, so I assumed he was kind of short, but evidently he's not.
I also like the idea that, you know, there's 2 types of Seann William Scott fans. People who will look at him and be like, dude, where's my car? And the real people who are like, it's Stifler.
Yeah.
I want to be that one who's like, Evolution with David Duchovny. Yeah, like, he was in that too. And I love Evolution.
What about Bo Duke?
Bo Duke, you got me there. This is our second time with Sean.
I believe so, yes.
And he's great. This whole scene, look, my biggest negative critique of the movie is, could they have reworked the entire movie to be these 3 stuck in a car for 90 minutes? Because I would have loved it.
A buddy trio, yeah.
Like, it's a road trip movie. And it also happens to be a side story in The Road Chip, the Chipmunks movie, because it has Jason Lee in it. I'd love it. I'd love if this took place in... It's like, it's still gritty and over the top, but it took place in the Chipmunks universe. I mean, hey, the Chipmunks universe is pretty dark. I mean, it had John Waters in it, and they acknowledged...
Pink Flamingos exists in the
and
universe,
they acknowledged that Alvin has sat down and watched Pink Flamingos, which is... Again, I want to know who chucked that idea out there. I imagine it was John Waters himself. It's like, I want to be in a Chipmunks movie. And they're like, no, John. He's like, I was on The Simpsons. Why can't you have me in the Chipmunks? It's like, you got me there. Simpsons is pretty wholesome a lot of the time, so I don't know why we can't have you in this.
I mean, to be fair, Simpsons started off as a pretty edgy show.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I think even George Bush had like a quote. It's like, well, yeah, we should be more like the... And he says like some wholesome sitcom family and less like the Simpsons.
Oh, it was Barbara Bush.
Barbara Bush.
Yeah, and then Marge, as the character of Marge, wrote a letter to her, being like, "Hey, we're not the best family in the world, but we try our best." And
was that the episode where they were across the road from them?
No, because they responded because of that episode. That's why they were like, they're not that great. They had us, but like in real life, I mean. She wrote a letter, like, they made out like Marge had written this letter, and they sent it to Barb, and Barb changed her mind because she realized that what Marge was saying in a very Marge-like way was very accurate, that they are reflecting a certain part of the American people, and if you ignore that part, that means you're out of touch with the American people who you're supposed to represent.
That's a really neat trivia point.
That is a neat trivia point. And it showed you that Barb Bush did have some humanity under there. Just a little. Just a little. She's dead now, but, she had a little. But you know who we need to talk about more? More Seann William Scott. He rocked this scene, but I love about this.
Both scenes where he's in the back of the car.
Yeah. Oh, and when he's in the jail cell.
Yeah, that too. But I'm saying there are two scenes where he's in the back of the car, and I wanted to make the comparison to Dukes of Hazzard. The car's an iconic thing. Dude, where's my car? Car's in the name.
Yeah.
Back of the car in this.
Back of the car in this. I'm pretty sure.
American Pie. Pie is 3 letters like car.
That's what you got out of that. Good. Like, in this scene, what's really great about it is, even though Tracy Morgan's being over the top, he's kind of playing the straight man in this situation because Bruce Willis is joining in very stoically in the silliness by participating in the stupidness of Seann William Scott. Seann William Scott had some great zingers in this, though.
He did, yeah.
Like, I liked, she's probably getting DP'd right now. It's like double penetrator. It's like, it's just like all these acronyms. Acronyms? Yeah. But
Yeah, acronyms.
Yeah, I just love that kind of silliness.
Wasn't there a trivia point on IMDb that most of his lines were improvised?
I'm not shocked. It's Seann William Scott. I think he improvises all of his lines in every single movie he's in.
I think that was the trivia point for this film. Yeah.
You want to learn some cool trivia about Seann William Scott? Because I delved deep into him.
Mm-hmm.
He is a very shy and introverted person in real life. To the point in which he didn't have a girlfriend until he was 30 years old because he was so shy talking to women.
All right.
He's Stifler! He's Stifler! And I think he's only 40-something now. So, think about that. Stifler! That's amazing!
Is he really only 40-something now?
Yeah. You gotta remember, come on, it's been 20 years since American Pie? American Pie was late 90s?
I think so.
Yeah, it's been 20 years since that, and he would have been in his early 20s then. Because they weren't actually teens.
So last decade he would have turned 30.
Yeah.
I probably have watched Dude, Where's My Car millions of times before he had a girlfriend then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's interesting to think about.
He seems like a really cool dude, though. He's smart and very well-spoken, but, he lets this side out in his performances, this really revved up dude bro side, and I loved his attitude to being dragged here. He's just please don't do it again, but he's still got that happy demeanor.
Right, he is a cool guy. He was very charismatic in Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh yeah, he's a charismatic guy. I mean, I like him. There's that movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson that he has, which is I think it's called The Rundown. It has 2 names, one for our country, one for America, 13 going on 30. Down here is called Suddenly 30.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one's for which country off the top of my head, but that's a good movie. It's just fun. It's one of the few Dwayne Johnson movies I actually enjoy. Because I like Dwayne Johnson in general, but
Yeah, you said he hasn't found his...
He hasn't found the movie.
Yeah.
He hasn't had his Snake Plissken or his Jack Burton, which apparently he'll be playing in a remake of Big Trouble in Little China, which is just great because the one thing about Big Trouble in Little China was it was the lightning in a bottle, and we should definitely try and replicate that. It would definitely work. So Bruce Willis here is wearing sunglasses. No.
He is.
Fun fact, he is. I gotta say, I like the extreme violence in this movie. Especially the police brutality that they inflict. And they never get reprimanded for it.
Well, they're not on duty, Ryan.
They aren't, so they could get...
They're technically vigilantes, I guess?
No, they are definitely vigilantes, Bartek. They were 100%... But they're not doing it to solve crimes, Bartek. They're in fact just straight up criminals. Because they're only doing it for the self-propensity so that he could get his baseball card back to sell it for financial gain. They're not doing it like Batman, who is a vigilante because he's seeing crimes and then stopping them by beating people up.
Well, both of them were wronged. He was robbed and Batman, his parents' lives were robbed.
But yes, that is true. That's a motivating factor for Batman, but it's not like that's the only thing going on. For Bruce, this is the only thing going on. He wants his baseball card back. He doesn't really care
So
too
when
much.
you say for Bruce, we got Bruce Wayne, Bruce Willis.
Well, which Bruce do you think is motivated by a baseball card?
Oh, well, Wayne, obviously.
Where's the card?
Which
I love baseball.
which actor playing Bruce Wayne is that?
Obviously, it's Ben Affleck. It's the Ben Affleck version where Kevin Smith got the direct Batman v Superman. where Batman's motivation is a baseball card and he makes a Star Wars joke. That would be actually the best part. You know, there's a bit in Batman v Superman where Batman smashes like a toilet sink. Like no, he grabs the lid of the lid of a toilet off and smacks Superman over the head with it.
That's during the big fight?
Yeah, the big fight.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Like he grabs the lid of like the basin, the tank of the toilet, like it's a solid ceramic, and he slaps him on the head with it. I love it if in Kevin Smith's version he does that, but then shit shoots out of the toilet as well and gets Superman in the eyes, and he's like, "Oh God!" And Batman, played by Ben Affleck, will be like. He'll just look and give that Ben Affleck smile, you know, that like insincere smile that Ben Affleck has that was so inspiring to David Fincher that he said, "I gotta have you in Gone Girl because of that insincere smile." You know that's a fact, right? One of the motivating factors in Gone Girl to get Ben Affleck in it was that Ben Affleck has this really insincere smile when he's on the red carpets, and he's like, "That's the guy to play this character."
So I just came to the realization, I don't think this film had any poo in it.
Are you sure?
No, I said I don't think.
Well, I don't think so either. The closest we get to a toilet is the Mexican girl, Gabriella, needs to use the bath, and she leaves the note on the toilet. That's the closest we get to any toiletry here.
If only she took a shit and didn't flush. And Ryan's sniffing it.
Why am I sniffing it?
Well, it's just you were laughing with your nose, so I was...
He is Bartek's favorite character of the movie. Small criminal boy. Carjacking a boy. Who grew up to be Batman, I imagine.
Because he got punched.
Because Bruce Willis...
No,
stood there and let him be punched. And he's like, "I'm against cops."
He's not against Tracy Morgan who punched him. It was Bruce Willis who let him
Well, that's a
happen.
motivating factor. But then he sees that Bruce Willis stood there and did nothing. And that motivated him even more. Where's the Bruce Willis? That's him grown up. It's very good. No, him grown up. He's like, "Where's that Bruce Willis, motherfucker?"
Yeah, I was about to say, the first voice kind of lost his ghetto inflection.
Hey, did you think it was gonna? What did you think the gag? What did you think was gonna happen here? Like when they did this, who did you think was gonna pop out of the car? Because I genuinely thought it was gonna be Seann William Scott. Because they're like, we gotta visit a criminal that we know. I'm like, oh, Seann William Scott. He's the only one that's been introduced that we know. But then in the movie they introduced as a child. Did you have any thoughts?
I don't know. Maybe his partner from the robbery Did we ever know what happened to that guy?
Which partner?
When they were robbing the memorabilia store.
Yeah, we never see him again. No, we don't. I guess he got off Seann William Scott free.
I get Scott free. Yeah. I get it.
You genuinely are like, hey, yeah. I'm very proud of myself. So this was a great little scene, and I just love that Kevin Smith in a lot of his movies either has absolute love or absolute disdain of children. There's no middle ground. It's like he either really loves kids in his movies or he really fucking hates them. There's no in between.
There's no room for generic kids.
There's no room for just a kid. It's either the kid is literally named the movie Jersey Girl, or a kid gets punched in the dick. No in-betweens with Kevin. There's no...
The titular Jersey Girl was shown a little boy's dick in Jersey Girl.
That is true. That is true. But she didn't punch him in it.
Yeah.
She was wowed by it.
She was too cash about it.
She was super cash about it, Bartek. So, Bartek, tell me more about your experience watching this. Some highlights from it.
Some highlights. Well, like I said, I just really enjoyed that. You know, even though this is sort of a cliched film in terms of its structure, the fact that it was delivered and, you know, played straight worked really well. So just, you know, everything about it was great. Like, in this scene here, you were alluding to it earlier about this is where we find out he really likes to wear shoes, or he's really interested in shoes.
Boop.
And they have just, you know, that line of, like, never wear a dead man's shoes, you'll get cursed. And
Yeah.
I just feel like, yeah, there's a lot of clever things in this film. And, you know, did Kevin Smith make that line? Or did the original writer make that line?
I think Kevin Pollak just walked on set that day and was like, let me improvise the shit out of this boot scene. And then they were like, yeah, dude. Now, I would like it if Kevin Smith did write this moment, because it is very clever. But I think we should give props to whoever the actual writer is, because there is, like, the structure is very strong. It has a lot of twists and turns, like Tracy Morgan's whole drama about him thinking his wife's cheating on her, and they play that very well, where him and Bruce are convinced that she is watching a videotape. But then in the end, it's a twist.
They should have watched more of the
They should have watched more. They should have watched if she actually got any, like, dick in her. So it was their fault for being so dumb. So we're about to, I think, meet Fred Armisen's character.
Yes, because they have to steal the car, and then they get chased by these guys.
My big question is, and the movie doesn't want to answer this, and that's fine, why did Fred Armisen want the car?
I mean, I guess he just liked it then, right?
He's a lawyer. He doesn't need to buy illegal cars.
Did he know it was illegal?
Dude, think about it. How did they sell this car to him? Like, this is the thing. Like, this would be the kind of guy, he's so rich, he would just walk into, like, a car dealership and buy it. Like, if he wants a Mercedes, he would just walk into a Mercedes place if he's a real good lawyer. But I do love Tracy Morgan's weird line deliveries in this scene where he's all emotionless, where he's like, and then you find out he's doing RoboCop. You don't find that out till quite some time in the scene. You just have him be like, freeze, do not move. Like, but he's not even doing it that robotically. He's like, freeze, do not move. And it's just like really, really dry.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was doing like a RoboCop kind of thing.
I didn't immediately put it together that's what he was doing. I just was like, what is he doing in this? And it was just so absurd and crazy. So weird. But, yeah, this movie has a lot of interesting twists. Now, as we've been delving into the Kevin Smith filmography, we've been, doing what is considered the dark era of Kevin Smith, in which he didn't do very many. He only did Clerks 2 in his own comedic style that people are familiar with that stoner comedy humor with the pop culture references and all that kind of stuff, because we've covered stuff like Jersey Girl, which is a major departure for him, and then Zack and Miri is kind of closer to what he does, but it's still a very sweet movie at the center of it. And then this is his commercial movie where he's trying to work with an idol of his and doing the buddy cop genre thing, and it's still not very similar of his style. And I think one of the things I've appreciated about covering this era of Kevin Smith is seeing how versatile he is when out of his own element. Like, this isn't his element that he usually is in these films, but he's still very versatile. He still was like, I will do Jersey Girl, I will do Zack and Miri Make a Porno, I will do Cop Out, I will do Red State and Tusk and all these things. no matter what, like he pushes himself. Like a lot of people negatively critique that he's very indulgent to his own audience of people. When really, if you look at it, there's a solid era in which he is going actively against what his group of audience members that fans of his would want from him.
Definitely, I could say that when you look at the videos on YouTube where he's like talking to his crowd, like he genuinely, I feel, loves them, and there he does it. But yeah, I definitely, it makes me think of when people talk about those actors that will do anything, like Christopher Walken,
Yeah. Who Kevin Pollak, who's in this movie as the older cop, does a fantastic impression of, by the way. He's like one of the top impressionists of Christopher Walken.
Oh, right on. But yeah, it's, I guess it's kind of easier to imagine that with an actor because, you take on a role, you add stuff to it. I guess to be a director that does versatile stuff, that kind of feels like a bit more work.
Yeah, and director-writer too, and editor of his own movies. You know what I just say? Not to compare them on the same level, of course, but in terms of an auteur filmmaker who is, the personality of the filmmaker is in the film. I find it interesting that Kevin Smith, someone people would look down upon in comparison, has more versatility in his films than Quentin Tarantino, who makes the same movies all the time, but they're just so well done. Like, you know what I mean by that? Like,
he's in his element. Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino is always in his element. He's always doing the Quentin Tarantino dialogue with the Quentin Tarantino violence, with the Quentin Tarantino actors, and the Quentin Tarantino direction. It's like... And I love Quentin. I love all of his movies, basically, and I enjoy them very much. But, he's not like your Martin Scorsese type, where Martin Scorsese will do a variety of different types of movies in different styles or whatever. And even Kevin Smith, you wouldn't be mistaken in thinking, not knowing that Kevin Smith made this movie.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's kind of a notion that I've read about online for all three of the films we've done so far.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have based on these three films that I've seen, have I seen a typical Kevin Smith film?
No, I don't really think so. I think Zack and Miri is the closest.
Yeah, you said that before.
Yeah, that's exactly it, it's so interesting to me. Like, we have all these acclaimed directors that we all love, of course, and appreciate, not to devalue them, but it is interesting that Kevin Smith takes more risks, and obviously, according to the critical thing, more failures as well, than someone like a Christopher Nolan, who basically does the same thing a lot. Like, he'll do different genres, but he will do them exactly like you think he would. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can definitely...
You saw Dunkirk, right?
Yeah, I did.
And it's exactly what you think he would do with it.
Yeah, pretty
A cold,
much.
Emotionless time in which people barely talk and there's intense musical score.
I remember The Color Grey.
Don't forget Blue, the slight greyish blue.
And the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see, you can pick up on directors' trademarks, but I can also see a lot of people who maybe aren't, or maybe even they are into cinema a lot, but they just don't think so much about the directors. Like what I was saying, Christopher Walken, he's on screen, you can identify a bunch of things. With directors, it's a behind-the-scenes role, so not only you're not giving them as much recognition because you have to be more in the know about it. Yeah, it's just hard being behind the scenes, and if you're, out of your element, how are people going to see the patterns if you've only seen Jersey Girl, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, and Cop Out?
Yeah, I understand, exactly. Like, it's very interesting, though. Like, all directors have their trademark styles. Kevin Smith has his pop culture references and, that kind of stuff. And certain actors he likes to use again and again, obviously, like a lot of directors do. But, I do think he doesn't get enough credit for how much he tries to push his boundaries when big directors get very comfortable in where they are, there are some directors that I really do appreciate, but I just wish I could see something different from them. And Nicholas Winding Refn, who did Drive and Bronson and Only God Forgives and Neon Demon. I love those movies, but it's very much the same ballpark. You don't see Nicholas Winding Refn doing like a musical. And if you did, you know exactly how he would do it. It would be weird and emotionally fucked up and like, stuff like that. That's even why I like someone like David Lynch. David Lynch is known for having his very Lynchian style, but then he'll do something like Elephant Man. And people often forget that's a David Lynch movie. Or he'll do Dune. Who thought giving David Lynch Dune would be a good idea? That's why I also like people like Denis Villeneuve, who is the guy who did like Arrival and Blade Runner 2049 and Prisoners and Enemy. Like, he has his very distinct style and his distinct way, but he does do the hopping around of what the material requires, Like, Prisoners is a very different type of movie to Blade Runner 2049. And that's not just because of the genre. It's the direction and the style and all that kind of stuff in general. And I appreciate that Kevin does that. He still does that today. Like, he's been more leaning towards doing more horror comedy elements and even some more sci-fi fantastical stuff. So, and I really want Kevin to lean fully into horror. Like, I appreciate the comedy stuff, but like my biggest complaint about something like Tusk is sometimes it will go, like, Tusk has a ludicrous premise and you can't avoid the comedic idea of it, but I think Tusk as a film worked better when it was leaning more on the horror and psychological elements, and I just really would love to see Kevin Smith hone that down and just kind of be bare bones and just go for the full horror aspect, like how he did with Jersey Girl, where he went for the full kind of sweet aspect. Like, there was not that much comedy in that movie.
No relief from the main genre.
Yeah, I would really appreciate to see his kind of take. I reckon he would do like a Hammer House horror type movie or something, like one of those old-fashioned kind of horror movies really well. This movie has a lot of people, and I was looking up pretty much all of them. I looked up Gabriella here, and she's an up-and-coming actress of quite some note. She was in the From Dusk Till Dawn TV show, which is pretty good. I'm pretty sure, I didn't properly look it up, but I'm pretty sure she plays the Salma Hayek role from the Queen of the Vampires. I think so. I didn't verify that, but like, she's in Jane the Virgin, which is a big show as well. And like I mentioned to Bartek, she did a voice in one of the Batman Arkham games, the Arkham Origins. She's listed, and she's kind of up and coming and just kind of appearing in a bunch of stuff, which is always interesting and always good when I look up actors and I this is a very early work for her, and she's speaking entirely in Spanish in this, except for hi. But she's very cute and adorable and seems to be having a really fun time in this as well.
Yeah, she gets to do a lot of physical acting as a result of not being able to communicate with the English-speaking leads.
I would really want to hear... I don't know if Kevin Smith has this out there, but I really would like to hear what Kevin Smith has to say about what it is like to direct foreign language scenes if you do not speak that language. Like, I don't imagine Kevin Smith speaks Spanish. Maybe he does, but like, I want to know what it was like for him to direct those scenes when you have the only, Spanish-speaking characters and they're all speaking in Spanish, because you have a few of those scenes. You have quite a few of those scenes in this movie.
That's a good point, yeah.
And I would wonder what it would have been like as a director, what that kind of challenge would have been like, because I don't think he's really had that in his filmography before, or at least in quite some time. So I wonder what that kind of challenge is like for a director. Like, I imagine you'd have someone there who does speak the language kind of relaying it to you, and you kind of have to kind of work with stuff. Like, I imagine the actors probably do speak English. I mean, obviously she does, but like...
I could definitely see, like, the main villain guy... I imagine Kevin Smith would have gotten along with most of the people that he directs, so
yeah,
a bit of trust there. Like, hey, how do you think this is going? It's like, I think the language that I can speak is going fine, or something like that.
Look, there's two ways that it could go. It could be like, like there are those ways where it's like, when you watch something that's in a foreign language, you don't speak the language. Mm-hmm. You can tell when it's good acting and when it's bad acting. You can still tell.
For sure, yeah.
Sometimes there's that grey area where you go, I don't know, because the acting styles are different culturally in different places, so you have to take that into account. But, like, There are those times where, I know this is an odd example, but let's say Troll 2, where you had foreign directors who could barely speak English directing people who could only speak English, and you could tell by their performances. You know, you can imagine that.
Their stiff line deliveries or something like that.
Yeah, and I wonder if we don't notice that, if there are scenes where it's foreign language people, like how naturally they are actually talking if they're directed by someone who doesn't speak the language. I was just thinking about that when watching this movie for some reason. I was like,
for sure, it's something to think about. Yeah, it's you know me, I've watched a fair bit of anime, and sometimes I watch them in Japanese, but there are times where some people do speak in English, and those characters are meant to be American.
Oh yeah, and they're like, "Hello there."
And they either get Japanese people speaking English with their accents, or sometimes they do get what sounds like English speakers, but they're clearly directed to speak slower than they naturally would.
Right.
Yeah, so you can definitely feel a stiffness for when you watch a foreign thing and they use English in that circumstance.
That is true. Just to touch on Kevin Pollak being in this movie, are you familiar with him at all as a comedian, as an actor? He's a comedian too.
When I saw him in this film, he looked really familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on where I'd seen him.
Well, he's in a lot of things, but I think he's primarily known for, in terms of movies. He's in The Usual Suspects. He's one of the main guys in The Usual Suspects. Right. Which is a big movie. Everyone knows all of The Usual Suspects in some way. Yeah. But he's also a comedic actor. He does impressions. He appears in a lot of shows. I'm pretty sure. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if he was in Seinfeld at one point. He's from New York. I'm pretty sure. He also does a great impression of Columbo, where he makes his eye, like one of his eyes, dart in different places, like Peter Falk's glass eye. Oh, okay. And there's even an interview where he's doing it in front of Peter Falk, and it's just great. Peter Falk's just like, this guy's a clown, but and he also, as Kevin Pollak, he asks Peter Falk to say his own last name, but with the word "you" after it. Peter Falk. Fuck you. Peter Falk has that accent, so it naturally sounds like "fuck you." and Peter Falk was like, "You know what? That's a good one. No one's ever done that to me before." So that's kind of cute. But I just thought it was interesting to see him in this. He's known as a comedian, and in this movie, he doesn't really have to play up his comedy aspect. In fact, he's probably the straight guy in the whole movie, other than the police chief. Because the younger guy, Adam Brody, is more comedic. He's the goofy one out of the two of them with his big boots. His big, absurd boots. Like, in this scene, he's playing it dead straight, but Adam Brody's over the top, I was expecting, some stupid twist with these guys. Like, in this scene, they mention they even have corrupt cops, and I was waiting for the twist of Adam Brody to be corrupt for some reason. Like, in movies, you're conditioned to have these things.
Well, definitely these guys were introduced as rival characters, so you did feel like even though they haven't really done anything wrong, they would get some sort of karmic comeuppance, maybe?
But they don't. Not really. I mean, they do get... One of them gets shot, but, they're all heroes. And they do our main characters are solid. Yeah. They don't need to, but they don't throw the main characters under the bus. I mean, they do in the fact that they got saved by them, but I felt like naturally they would have thrown them that bone anyway.
Yeah, the brothers in blue.
The brothers in blue, man.
It's like we've already said it this episode, they didn't go the cliche for this particular way.
Now, this scene has a very important thing I want to ask you about. You've traveled around the world. More than I.
Parts of it, yeah.
So you may be more familiar with this, but have you ever been anywhere, let alone a motel, where they have mirrors on the roof? On the ceiling? Because this scene had mirrors on the ceiling. And I've never been to a place that's had mirrors on the ceiling.
I don't think I have either.
Are you sure? You have to think about your dad's house. It has like 3 toilets, so none of them have mirrors on the ceiling.
Mirrors just on the walls, man.
I was waiting for you to be like, nah, just mirrors on the floor. Those are the carpet.
Just the corners, Ryan.
Yeah, that would be the weirdest. Ryan, they're just mirrored doors. I mean, what do you want? I love it. I really want you to be like, your dad's carpeting is just mirrors.
It's very reflective fur.
Yeah. Well, his lawn is a mirror, but like other than that, no. Like the literal roof of the house is a giant mirror, and when you drive down the road, people like crash their cars because the sun's reflecting off of it.
No. Look, other than the windshield wipers, there are no mirrored surfaces.
Excellent. Oh, excellent. So, Bartek, tell me more about, like, were there certain plot points or certain character motivations that you thoroughly enjoyed that kind of helped make this an unappreciated masterpiece for you?
Not so much to answer that question, but I did like the juxtaposition of, in the video, his wife is... we're talking about Tracy Morgan, listening people.
Tracy Morgan!
His wife is basically chewing him out, telling him off, and he is just cheering.
Yes.
He's very, very happy about what's happening.
Yes.
Whereas in any other film, that would be a moment of like, oh no, I'm a scumbag.
Yeah, like if it was the movie The Guilt Trip, it would have that scene where Seth Rogen is like sad and there's condensation on the window that's kind of representing the cries on the inside. I remember that scene very vividly for some reason. But like, but in this, Tracy was like, yeah, boy, my wife not cheating on me, but I'm shit. But like, I thought you guys also mentioned the juxtaposition of Bruce Willis's relationship with his ex-wife and how his ex-wife did cheat on him with
Jason Lee?
I was going to say Earl Hickey.
It'd be one more thing for him to apologize for.
But Dave from the Chipmunk movies. Yeah, and how like Bruce Willis is like, that happened to me, and him and his wife have that friction. And then in Tracy, he doesn't have that happening. Like there's a complete happening juxtaposition with them two. Again, adding to the general buddy cop thing, the mismatched buddies. On many levels. Like obviously Tracy Morgan is kind of dumb, watches a lot of movies, pop culture, TV. He's black, of course. He has a marriage in which it actually is working and they're happy. He doesn't have any kids. That kind of stuff. While Bruce Willis is a lot more stern, stoic. He kind of is taking the job more seriously. He has a kid, but he is a distant father and he needs money. Tracy Morgan doesn't need money. Like that general kind of thing. They do a very good job of that in this movie without declaring it. Like they don't have the bits where Bruce Willis says, I'm getting too old for this shit. And Tracy Morgan's like, I'm young and skippy.
We've basically already said it like in multiple different ways, but I think what makes this film really great and what people are really missing about it is just that thing of, they play something straight, they subvert some other things. It's completely unpredictable in this predictable sort of plot.
It's subtle.
It's subtle. Sometimes it's not subtle. It's just unpredictable.
Now, unfortunately, the unpredictability is also in the behind the scenes of this movie. Which we have kind of talked about, but there is more there, which is, unfortunately, Bruce Willis and Kevin Smith did not get on.